mechanic with 30 years of experience can diagnose a failing sensor on a Class 8 engine in 4 minutes, and still isn't allowed to fix it. That's not a skill problem. It's a permissions problem. Independent shops across the country report completing 75 to 80% of a repair job, then hitting a wall. The final step, clearing the code and closing the file, belongs to someone else. Somewhere in the Midwest, an owner-operator we'll call Marcus is doing the math on a torn-up invoice at a truck stop diner. His rig has been sitting in a dealership lot for 6 days. He owns the truck. He can't legally touch what's wrong with it. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly which company decided that, and why it's costing operators like Marcus more than most Americans earn in a year. There are roughly 3.5 million truck drivers operating in the United States, and a significant share of them run as owner-operators, small business owners who carry full financial responsibility for every repair, every delay, every bad month. Marcus bought his truck used, 3 years old, financed at a rate typical for the industry. His plan was simple: run 10,000 miles a month, keep his cost per mile under control, and build equity. Then his engine went into D-rate on a highway 400 miles from home. He did what any smart operator does. He called the nearest independent shop instead of paying dealership rates. The technician plugged in, found the fault in under 10 minutes, and quoted him a straightforward sensor and injector repair, a job worth roughly $1,200 to $3,000. Then the technician hit the wall. The engine's electronic control module was locked behind a manufacturer security gateway. Clearing the fault code and finalizing the repair required proprietary software the independent shop wasn't authorized to use. That software belongs to one place: the dealer network. This is the villain system, and it isn't a person, it's an architecture. Modern trucks are rolling computers. The mechanical repair takes an hour, the software authorization can take days, and only one type of business holds the key. That key is worth more to the manufacturer than most people realize. But this is only the surface layer. To understand how a mechanic with the right tools still can't finish the job, you have to go back to how truck repair used to work. For decades, a diesel engine was a mechanical system. Any qualified shop with a wrench and a manual could open it up. Then came emissions regulation in the 2000s. Manufacturers had to add computer-controlled systems to meet federal standards: sensors, electronic control modules, after-treatment systems. The engine stayed mechanical. The permission to work on it did not. By the 2000s and 10s, manufacturers and the aftermarket industry recognized the problem was growing. In 2014, major manufacturers signed a voluntary agreement covering light-duty vehicle repair data. A 2015 follow-up extended similar terms to vehicles over 14,000 pounds, the heavy-duty class that includes Class 8 semi-trucks. Voluntary, not law, not enforceable the way a mechanic needs it to be. 3 words matter here: no binding right. Independent shops still had to buy access. One tool for one manufacturer, another tool for the next. A shop working on 5 different truck brands might carry 5 different software subscriptions, each running hundreds of dollars a month, just to keep pace with what a single dealership already has built in. Some shop owners report forwarding as many as 5 vehicles a month to dealerships for exactly this reason. Not because the diagnosis was hard, but because the final authorization wasn't theirs to give. Every one of those referrals hands the labor, the markup, and the customer relationship back to the manufacturer's own network. By 2026, the pressure had built into federal action. The EPA issued new guidance nicknamed Freedom to Fix, requiring manufacturers to provide diagnostic and repair information to independent shops. Congress has repeatedly introduced the Repair Act, aiming to guarantee shops the same data access dealers already enjoy. Massachusetts tried to force the issue at the state level, passing a right to repair law by direct voter referendum. The auto industry's lobbying arm sued before it could take effect. A federal judge issued an injunction. As of 2026, that law still isn't fully enforced, years after voters approved it. 3 words again: still not enforced. But here's what most people get wrong. Most people assume the fix is simple: pass a law, force manufacturers to share the software. Problem solved. The economics tell a different story, and this is where the real number comes in. At a dealership handling an unscheduled emergency visit, The diagnostic fee alone runs $450 to $750 before a single part is replaced. Compare that to the cost structure independent shops actually operate under. A widely used all-makes diagnostic subscription, the kind that lets a technician work across brands instead of buying 5 separate OEM tools, still runs a shop hundreds of dollars a month per brand, a cost that gets passed straight to the customer or absorbed as lost margin. Now follow Marcus's truck through the system. His independent shop diagnosed the problem correctly and would have finished the repair for around $2,000. Locked out of the final software step, his truck instead had to be towed to a dealership, a tow alone that can run $800 on top of everything else. At the dealership, a truck already flagged for a D-rate event doesn't get the small fix. It gets the full workup. Diagnostic fee, labor at dealership rates, often $175 an hour or more. And because a locked-out independent shop couldn't intervene early, what started as a sensor problem had run long enough to point toward deeper engine work. Major engine repairs on a Class 8 truck range from $5,000 for limited internal work to over $40,000 for a full rebuild or long block replacement. Here's the human scale comparison. $40,000 is more than a full year's take-home pay for the median American worker. On one truck. For one engine. Add the 6 days Marcus's truck sat waiting for dealer availability. Independent research puts unplanned truck downtime at $448 to $760 a day on average, and for specialized or over-the-road freight, that figure climbs past $1,500 a day. 6 days at even the conservative end is another $2,700 to $4,500 in pure lost revenue, on top of a truck payment and insurance that keep billing whether the truck moves or not. Tow, diagnostic, dealer labor, major repair. A week of lost revenue. Stack those line items on a single bad breakdown routed through a locked-out system, and you land close to $50,000, the real cost, not of fixing a truck, but of not being allowed to fix it the cheaper way first. Here's the counterintuitive turn. The technology that was supposed to make trucks safer and more efficient is the same technology creating this exact bottleneck. The lock isn't a side effect of complexity, it's the business model. Dealership service departments generate a significant share of long-term profit through captive repair networks, a revenue stream that depends on independent shops staying one login away from finishing the job. That's the reason your mechanic can't fix your semi-truck, not because he lacks the skill, but because someone else owns the door. If you've ever stood in a shop bay and felt like the job should have taken an hour instead of a week, you already understood this before anyone said it out loud. The tools are there, the knowledge is there, the permission is not, and that gap was built on purpose. Here's what most people don't realize. This isn't a story about bad mechanics or difficult trucks. It's a story about who gets to own the relationship between a machine and the person who paid for it. A truck owner who understands this stops asking, "Why is this repair taking so long?" and starts asking, "Who controls the software that would make it fast?" That question puts you ahead of most fleet owners on the road today. People who assume a 6-day dealership wait is just how modern trucks work, rather than a designed outcome of a system built to route work back to one type of business. Some independent networks are already fighting back with workarounds, telematics modules that pull manufacturer-level data through the OBD port, all-makes diagnostic platforms built to cut subscription costs by covering multiple brands in a single tool. They help. None of them fully closes the gap while the final software authorization still sits behind a manufacturer's WL dot. The regulatory fight, the Repair Act, the EPA's guidance, the Massachusetts injunction still working through the courts, is the visible layer. The real leverage sits in whether an owner-operator chooses a shop, a truck brand, and a maintenance plan with this bottleneck in mind before the breakdown happens, not after. Which brings us to what happens next. Every year this stays unresolved. More of that $50,000 gets absorbed by the people who can least afford it, the independent operators keeping American freight moving one contract at a time. The next time a warning light comes on in a cab somewhere in this country, the question won't be whether the mechanic can fix it. It will be whether anyone let him.